A quiet morning at Morrison's Diner. It was a calm Tuesday morning in downtown Charlotte. The first rays of sun painted the streets gold, and the air carried the faint aroma of freshly baked bread from nearby bakeries. Grace Williams, 63, tied her apron strings with practiced ease, ready for another day at Morrison's Diner. For 15 years, she had served coffee and comfort food to locals, her warm smile as familiar to them as the checkered tablecloths she dusted each morning. Grace arranged fresh flowers on table 6, a weekly ritual that reminded her of her grandmother's garden. Her hands, knotted and worn from decades of work, told a story of sacrifice and resilience, yet her spirit remained unbroken. Calm and gentle as the morning sun filtering through the diner's windows. She knew her regulars' preferences by heart. Black coffee for Mr. Peterson, extra syrup for little Emma on Saturdays, and sweet tea with no ice for Mrs. Chen from the flower shop next door. The diner wasn't fancy, but it was home, a small world of warmth and care in the bustling city. By 5:30, Grace had helped Kenny, the young cook, prepare for the morning rush, ensuring the coffee was strong and the counter spotless. By 7, the familiar faces began filtering in, filling the room with laughter, small talk, and the comforting rhythm of everyday life. Grace moved between tables with grace and precision, refilling cups and checking in on her regulars. She had raised 3 children while working double shifts, put 2 through college, and never missed a Sunday at Mount Olive Baptist Church. Every movement, every smile carried the imprint of decades of care. Scene 2, the arrival of trouble. By 9:15, the morning crowd had thinned. Outside, a sleek black sedan rolled to a stop. A sharply dressed white man stepped out, phone pressed to his ear, voice loud and commanding even from across the street. Grace watched silently, noting every detail, the shimmer of polished shoes, the stiffness of his posture, the precise cut of his expensive suit. His impatience radiated outward, a ripple disrupting the calm of the morning. He paused, gesturing dismissively while speaking rapidly on the phone. Then, sliding the phone into his jacket pocket, he approached the diner door. The small brass bell chimed, but there was nothing welcoming in its sound. His eyes swept across the diner with disdain, lingering on worn vinyl booths, and handwritten menus as though judging their very existence. Grace instinctively straightened, water pitcher in hand. She had faced impatience and rudeness countless times, but the cold, deliberate intensity in this man's gaze felt Richard different. Blackstone's He was eyes a storm lingered on her cloud name entering tag her before meeting morning. her gaze. He chose a corner His table back coldness straight, was exuding unmistakable. authority without uttering a word. He said, measured Patrons and sharp. sensed the shift.
I don't think you should be
Whispers of
serving me
unease
at all.
threaded through the air. The words
Grace
landed like
approached,
stones,
offering her usual
Grace's pulse
greeting,
quickened
calm
slightly,
and
but she
polite.
held herself steady.
Good morning, sir.
Richard leaned
Can
back,
I start
his
you off with
authority
some
clear,
coffee?
and introduced himself, owner of half the buildings on the block, including Morrison's Diner. And frankly, he said, someone like you shouldn't be working here. The diner fell silent. Kenny emerged from behind the counter, fists clenched. Hey now, mister, you can't talk to Grace like that. She's been here longer than anyone, and she's the heart of this diner. Richard waved him off dismissively. I want her fired. Now. And if anyone has a problem with that, I can make calls that will shut this place down permanently. Grace felt a cold determination rise within her. She inhaled slowly, grounding herself in decades of faith, family, and community service. She would respond, but not with anger. Scene 3, the confrontation. Grace steadied herself, hands resting lightly on the water pitcher. Her voice was soft, but carried unwavering authority. It is personal. When you look at me and see something less than human, that is as personal as it gets. She retrieved the small framed photograph she kept by the counter, a snapshot of her 3 proud children smiling at their graduation ceremonies. I serve more than food, she told Richard. I serve love, family, and community, and no words from anyone can take that away. Kenny, overwhelmed by emotion, tried to intervene. Grace, you don't have to... No, Kenny, she said gently, shaking her head. It's okay. This is my voice, my moment. I will not let someone else define me. Richard shifted uneasily, his confidence faltering. He had expected fear, submission, perhaps outrage, but not this quiet, unshakable dignity. Each word Grace spoke reflected not just her own strength, but a lifetime of integrity and love. Patrons leaned forward, captivated. Mrs. Chen clutched her teacup. Mr. Peterson's knuckles whitened around his coffee mug, and the young couple at table 3 sat in reverent silence. The diner had become a stage for moral courage, a testament to the power of grace over cruelty. Scene 4. Grace finds her voice. Grace's voice remained steady. She placed the photograph down on the counter, a reminder of her life's work. I have spent 15 years of my life pouring love into this community, nurturing people and creating a space where everyone feels welcome. That is who I am. That is what I serve. The silence in the diner deepened, heavy with anticipation. Richard leaned forward, trying to reclaim control, but his polished suit and expensive watch could not mask his discomfort. You may have power over buildings, Mr. Blackstone, Grace said, eyes locking with his. But you do not have power over the dignity, love, and respect I have built through my life. That belongs to me, and no one can take it away. Kenny, moved by her strength, finally allowed himself to exhale. Patrons, young and old, absorbed the lesson Grace demonstrated. True power lies not in wealth, status, or authority, but in character, courage, and compassion. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Grace's lips, not from triumph over Richard, but from quiet affirmation of her own integrity. She had found her voice, and in doing so, reminded everyone present that dignity, courage, and love could outshine prejudice, fear, and cruelty. Scene 5. Unexpected intervention. The diner door chimed again. This time, the atmosphere shifted. An elderly, distinguished black man entered, impeccably dressed in a navy suit. His silver hair caught the morning light, and his calm yet commanding presence immediately drew attention. Behind him followed a younger woman, carrying a legal briefcase, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. "Excuse me," the man said, voice warm but authoritative. "I couldn't help but overhear the commotion from outside." He looked directly at Richard, extending his hand. "I'm Judge William Harrison, recently retired from the North Carolina Supreme Court, and this is my daughter, Attorney Sarah Harrison." Richard's face paled. Authority and legacy, symbols he had long wielded, now faced a force he could not control. Judge Harrison's eyes were steady, unwavering. "Discrimination in a public accommodation is a federal crime, Mr. Blackstone," Sarah added softly, placing her briefcase down. "Your actions have consequences, and this is not a matter of opinion." Grace watched quietly, her heart steady. She had endured insult and prejudice, but she did not need the intervention to validate her courage. Yet seeing justice arrive in human form brought a sense of reassurance to the room. Richard fumbled for words, his authority crumbling. This is all a misunderstanding. I was having a bad day." "I didn't mean—" "You meant every word," Grace interrupted gently, her eyes meeting his. "But I forgive you anyway." Scene 6. Grace's triumph. Grace walked to the counter once more, apron tied with careful precision, and poured Richard a cup of coffee. Not in revenge, but in kindness. Each movement was deliberate, an embodiment of her philosophy. Hatred is best met with light, not darkness. The diner erupted, not with anger, but with love and support. Customers, neighbors, and even strangers embraced Grace, honoring her years of service and her grace under pressure. Mrs. Chen brought flowers. Mr. Peterson organized a bonus for her, and Kenny wiped tears from his eyes. Richard watched, amazed and humbled, witnessing the tangible power.